Well, welcome, Donna. We're so glad to have you here. And, just starting out, we'd love to get to know you and how long you've been in education and just your role within your district.
Absolutely. It's great to be here. Thank you for having me. So I am currently the director of MTSS and SEL for the district here in Evanston. I am actually originally from Jacksonville, Florida. So I did the opposite of what everyone else does, going from, the Midwest to the North, moving down South. I did the other way. And I've been in Chicago since 2009. I've been in education for about 13 years. I've taught in Chicago public schools. I also taught in Duval County Public Schools in Jacksonville, Florida, where I'm from. I was also did my leadership training in Boston, so I definitely did some work there in Boston Public Schools, and then went back to Chicago Public Schools to be a school leader for a few years. And the past 5 years, I've been here in Evanston, really loving this district role. So this is year 6. So I've been here 5 years. Oh my goodness. Time flies. And wow. Thinking about it from the lens of equity, I have my own little phrase I kind of borrowed from Cornell West is equity, or MTSS is equity with its work boots on. Because it is. I mean, we talk about equity and we talk about, what we want idealistically, what we want to see in our classrooms, in our buildings, and in our districts. However, that takes work. And where I think the rubber meets the road, and will always be my answer of MTSS is everything, is MTSS. That is equity with its work boots on, giving kids what they need, when they need it, how they need it, giving adults what they need, when they need it, how they need it. That's the definition of equity. And so that's always my answer. It's like, oh, MTSS. They're like, oh, we're having custodial issues. And I was like, oh, well, let's MTSS this. Let's go. Let's do the problem solving. Like, it's everything. It's everything.
So before you kind of began this journey of MTSS, and you said it was kind of when you sort of first exposed to it as a student, but even when you started to put the name on it, what was your general feeling about MTSS?
I would say at first, and I think any educator, especially any new educator, this will definitely ring true. I was overwhelmed coming in. My first and second year, not even realizing just nothing can prepare you for being dropped in a classroom your first few years. It's the same thing like with being a parent. I'm not a parent, but I'm assuming you could be as prepared as you want. But nothing can you can never be 100% ready for when that child gets dropped in there. It's the same thing. And at first it was just kind of overwhelming. I'm looking at a classroom of 32, 33 second graders, and they are completely different areas. And I'm just learning this craft myself, and so it was overwhelming at first. It stayed overwhelming for several years. Because again, if you're doing it in isolation, it is way more difficult than when there's a structure and system in place in the building that supports it. And so, it was tough at first. It's still tough. It's never easy. But having, going into a school building, with the systems to support what the important work is, that MTSS model definitely made things a little bit easier.
Well, I was going to say, I could see how, I think about that of like when you're your first few years of teaching, and maybe you have that mindset of wanting to give each student what they need when they need it. If you don't have that system to back you up, like you will feel like you're on a hamster wheel of constantly trying to meet the needs, and you feel like you're never enough to like really make the difference that you think needs to be made. And it can be really frustrating to be in that spot. But when you're in a system that supports it and everyone around you has that same mindset, or you're driven towards those same goals, and that's the point of your meetings, and that's the point of like, that's the basis of everything that the school is about, it feels freeing almost of like, okay, we can do this, guys. We can do this.
Absolutely.
It's like all rowing in the same direction.
Yes. Yeah. That collectivist approach is definitely the most, well, for me was the most important. Because I stood in the classroom, or how many years I've been teaching, I realized I'm not enough. I can't do this by myself. I can't reach the needs of all of my students completely by myself. But I know in the building, I have colleagues, I have co-conspirators that I can talk to and say, hey, can you help me out with understanding, what might be happening here? Or can you help me with a strategy? I saw you do it with your students. Like, can you help me? Like, what do I do in this situation? How do I actually run a closed reading? I'm a middle school and high school person. So you throw me in a second grade classroom, like, I'm not teaching anybody how to read. I'm pretty sure I don't know how to read myself. I think I've just memorized a lot of words. So like, I don't know how to do this, but I know that I have a colleague down the hall who does. And so really being able to like lean on other people and de-privatizing our practices, like just
I like that, de-privatizing our practices.
Absolutely. We are not a building of individual, consultants. We are a school building together. And so us working together, fill in my gaps, because I have gaps and I need help filling it in. And once I kind of leaned on my other colleagues and opened up my door and like figuratively and literally, it became a lot easier because I didn't have to rely solely on myself. There are other people around me who can support me in my learning that then will support my students in theirs.